The New Patriotic Party is accusing President Mahama of abuse of incumbency over his accounting to the people tour.
The president who is accounting to the people, or the NDC party which is accounting to the people. Because if you look at the entourage, hey, I think it's not purely government activity.
The largest opposition parties, however, demanding strict regulations to ensure a level playing field ahead of the November 7 polls. But the National Democratic Congress feels this is needless, describing the NPP's allegations as baseless. Now, the president has been touring parts of the country in a bid to tout his government's achievements since he assumed office. So where do we draw the lines? Is the president campaigning under the guise of accounting to the people? This is not the first time we're having this conversation. But how can we end it in subsequent election years? We'll be speaking with representatives of the two major political parties, the NDC and the NPP, and also hear from an independent body, the CDD. This is today's big story. My name is Aisha Bryan. The president is expected to be in the Volta region this week after spending some time in the eastern region last week. Other regions are expected to take their turn in President Mahama's accounting to the people tour. However, campaign manager of the NPP, Peter McMahon, says President Mahama is simply hiding behind the tour to solicit for votes. We can all listen to him.
As a growing democracy, we should be able to distinguish purely party campaign activities from government activities, however thin the line is. But these are areas of concern on abuse of incumbency and how they relate to impartiality of the election.
You feel the president is abusing his incumbency in this case?
Very well so, because if you use government activities to portray the image of your party, and they have done that in the past, I think that's an unfair treatment to Ghana presidential candidates.
But Mr. McMahon, this tour that the president is embarking on, he says that he's simply accounting to the people for the work that he's done since he assumed office.
Is it the president who is accounting to the people, or the NDC party which is accounting to the people? Because if you look at the entourage, if you look at the people he meets, if you look at the speeches that are made there, hey, I think it's not purely government activities. So there must be some rules, guidelines, code of conduct to engage us in these activities during especially election year.
But the president has in fact been inaugurating some projects in some of the areas that he's been.
And what does he tell us? What does he tell us when he inaugurates this project? He tells us about his party, about the fact that he should return into office, about the fact that he has been in office for a certain number of years, so they should allow him to continue. These are the things. The speeches that are made does not suggest in any way the kind of inference you are making.
Some would say, Mr. McMahon, that while the MPP was in office, 8 years in office, same happened.
That's absolutely not true. Again, we live in a dynamic society. Things that went bad 8, 10 years ago should not be repeated 10 years after. What kind of society are we that we always go back to history to support the evil things we are doing today? The history is supposed to guide us to do the right thing for the future and now. So making references to the past does not help us as a country, as a people. There's one clear guiding principle in democratic elections: this impartiality and level playing field. And we are not seeing that. In some countries, it is the registrar of political parties who design it. We don't have it here. So these political parties' activities are under the canopy of the Electoral Commission.
So that was campaign manager of the NPP, campaign chairman of the NPP, Peter McMahon. On the phone is Mike Okwe Jr., Deputy Communications Director of the NPP. Good evening to you. Many thanks for your time on today's big story.
Yes, hello. Good evening.
Mr. Okoye Jr., the president has explained he's accounting to the people based on what he has been able to do with his first tenure. Wouldn't you have done the same if you found yourself in his shoes?
Yes, I didn't hear that properly. Wouldn't we do what?
I'm saying that the president has explained that he's accounting to the people based on what he's been able to achieve during his tenure. Wouldn't you have done the same if you found yourself in the president's shoes?
No, I mean, I don't know about doing the same if we were in the president's shoes. Let me start by saying a very good evening to your listeners. And to start by saying that the first thing I agree with is we just heard Peter McMenu make a very important statement that when you're moving forward, you try to do things better because no justification can be made from mistakes of the past. Now, what is it that we are complaining about? When a president is going on a tour, and for example, he says, oh, I've done this and that, and so I want you to see what I have done. That is totally different from a president who says, this is what we want to do when you give us power. This is what you want to do when you give us power. We are going to give tertiary institutions this and that when you give us power. It makes him sound like he's campaigning or he's like an opposition leader who is not in power and is saying that when I come, I will do this or do that. Because we know that if you are counting to the people,
schools,
it is about what
and all
revenue
of that. Those
you've
are
been
things
able
that
to...
he has achieved.
Pardon?
I'm saying that the president, during his tour, he commissioned some schools, he commissioned roads and all of that. Those are some of the things he has achieved.
Yes, exactly. But what we are saying is if he had just done that, then this issue would not arise. But where you have a case where there is no subtlety and it shows that basically what he's saying is, oh, I will do this when I come into power in 2016, then it is a campaign tour. And we are saying that if you're going around accounting to the people, and this is being done with regard to using state funds, then it's a problem. If you remember, Dr. Park Wesinjo was the first to complain about this when he stated that, in his opinion, the president is going around using state funds and state facilities and state opportunities to campaign. And this, we feel, is something that is unfair and is not granting a level playing field. Any impartiality of that sort is not something that should be done in the modern democracy of Ghana. And so we are asking that the president should look at it again, Ghanaians should look at it again, and take note. Because if the president doesn't stop, then we would also say that Ghanaians should take note of him using the state funds for an unfair advantage and use that as a reason not to vote for the president come 2016.
Did the MPP only realize this after Dr. Park Wesinjo raised the issue?
Oh, no, of course not. I mean, somebody may be the first to raise an issue, but it doesn't mean the second to raise it has just realized after the first. We are also making an additional realization to the fact that the president is abusing incumbency, and we feel that this is wrong. When you say it's an accounting tool, you should account to the people for their money and the projects you've built, not to campaign and talk about futuristic projects.
But Mr. Okoye Jr., this is not the first time we are having this conversation. I remember during the Eswa Kufuor government, MPP was accused of doing same. Or is it a matter of when you are in power, it's right, and when you're in opposition, it becomes wrong?
Not at all. In fact, we have made this very clear that the fact that it may have happened in the past in the Nkrumah government or in the Liman government or Buzia or J.J. Rawlings or Kufuor or Mills doesn't make it right. And I would not justify any wrongdoing today by saying that it had happened in the past. What we are saying in a nutshell is that this is showing or should show impartiality when you are going around on an accounting tour, but you should not be going around telling people that we are going to do this and we are going to do this when you give us power. That is totally different from an accounting tour. And therefore, we see it as more of a campaign for the 2016 elections, telling the people of Ghana that you are going to do something for them after 2016. That is not accounting. That is a promise spree. And we are saying that it is unfair and the president should not abuse such incumbency.
Mr. Michael Okoye Jr., the NPP is demanding strict regulations to ensure a level playing field. How do you intend to push this?
Well, I mean, this is something that we're going to discuss at a different level when we sit down and look at the various ways we'll have to deal with it. Because we just feel that if you're going to give a message in terms of accountability to the people of Ghana, this is not the way it should be done. So if this is being abused, I think it will be wrong of me to sit here and state 2 or 3 things we will do straight away. We would want to monitor the situation a bit more, and then we'll put our heads together and propose something at the right fora. But for now, we want to make the complaint, and we believe that the president is also a decent politician. He will take note and heed to the complaint of the various Ghanaians, including the PPP, the NPP, and various other bodies who have stated saying. The message is simple. Stop abusing incumbency and play by the rules.
Many thanks to Mike Okoye Jr., is Deputy Communications Director of the NPP. Let's speak with the NDC, where Fred Agbenyo is Deputy Communications Director. Good evening to you, Fred. Many thanks for your time on today's big story.
Good evening.
Fred, how do you respond to accusations that the president, I'm talking about President Mahama, is abusing his incumbency by campaigning under the guise of accounting to the people?
Well, to be honest with you, it's not an issue we in NDC want to pay any particular attention to. Clearly, the noise is coming from people who have lost track of the focus of their campaign. The noise is coming from a group of people who don't know what to do next. They are dazed by the achievement of President Mahama. And so they just want to say something, they are talking. As far as they are concerned, the President of Ghana is the Commander-in-Chief of Ghana Armed Forces. The Constitution of this country allows him to visit every part of this country. Government has done a lot of projects across the length of this country. It is incumbent on him to visit the project site. It's incumbent on him to take opportunity to commission some of the projects. It's incumbent on him to visit fellow countrymen and women wherever they are in this country. Almost every president from independence to date have done this. He's not the first president to be doing this. He will continue to do it. If anybody feels dissatisfied with it, that is also a headache.
But the NPP is not the only party raising this issue. Dr. Papa Kwesi Indum has also raised the same issue. You think this is a matter we should just brush off?
There are 2 bedfellows. We have a lot of things to do, and that's why we are putting our energies on.
But indeed, the NPP alleges that the people accompanying the president on his tour are not government officials. In fact, many of them are party people. And again, if you listen to the president, wherever he tours, he hammered on that fact or the point that the people must retain him in power. That's campaigning. Don't you think so?
Indeed, if Dr. Papa Kwesi Indum really believed in Nkrumah's ideology and a CPP person, as he initially claimed, he would have known the way and the manner of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah governed this country. That at a point in time in his governance, every Thursday, Nkrumah goes to the office, his party office in the morning, go and sit there, receive party people. From there, they move to the Flaster House to go and control government business. Where do you draw the line between the leader of a political party, who doubles as the flag bearer of the party, and also the president of the Republic of Ghana? So what are we talking about?
So for you, where does the distinction lie?
When President Mahama was coming to NDC party office to come and submit his nomination form that he takes to contest the elections, he came in his private vehicles. Are they saying that because the president should not be given security escort? Even former president, are they not entitled to security escort and security protection in the houses? So I don't just get the head and tail. And I expect really that some young people, some young girls who really have not followed our political discourse for a long time to be saying this, and not very elderly members of our society who should have better appreciation of things like this we're talking. And they said that in an election year, the president should not go around this country again. He should not commission projects. If he goes to commission projects, he shouldn't remind the people that an election year they should vote for him when the opportunity comes. Is it wrong for a president to go around and tell the people that come 28th of this month, the electoral commission is going to open limited registration, and so they should participate in that process? What is wrong with it? This are not tales coming from very senior members of our society. It's unfortunate, and I don't know what Dr. Hindu wants to achieve by this. As for NPP, I can pardon them, but not you, Dr. Hindu.
But the 1992 Constitution, of course, frowns upon abuse of incumbency. And are you saying that because the president is in power, he should take the advantage of that and campaign with state resources?
President is not campaigning. We've not launched our campaign yet.
So what do you call words like retain me in power, don't mind what my opponents are saying? What do you call that?
You can decide on what you want to call campaign. As far as we are concerned as a political party, we are yet to launch our campaign. When we launch our campaign, the whole world will officially be informed that we have launched our campaign. Our candidate is moving on campaign tour. We will inform Ghanaians accordingly. When Anado recently went around the whole of this country, saying that he was going on a listening tour, was he campaigning? What did they tell us? They said we're just trying to find out the problems in the country where.
But he wasn't in power. He didn't use state resources.
If President Mahama goes to Eastern Region to go and commission a university project, if you go to Eastern Region and commission a school project, if you go to commission water project, are those NDC programs? Did we see him enter NDC regional office and constituency offices? Was he not meeting Ghanaians, meeting chiefs, commissioning projects, meeting students? Since when has that become an affront to government? What is anybody calling incumbency? President Kufuor was a president in this. We saw him campaigning. Even here in Anado, in 2007, when he became a flag bearer of NPP, when President Kufuor was still in power, didn't you see what they did in this country? Was he not moving around the whole of this country? DCs and ministers at the time following him with state vehicles. They've forgotten so soon. They're coming to give us lessons on incumbency and abuse of incumbency. Let's spend our time on things that will benefit us. President Mahama is not going to stop what he's doing. He's going to continue to the 10 regions of this country. He's going to account for his stewardship, the work that have entrusted in his hands. He's going to move, God willing, tomorrow as he speaks. He's heading towards voter region. When he finishes in 3 days' time, he'll come and move to the next day. He will do all the 10 regions. After he has finished all that, NDC officially, we shall launch our manifesto, we shall launch our campaign, and we shall hit the ground and campaign in every single community of this country to the people of this country for them to renew his mandate.
Well, many thanks to you, Fred Agbenyo, is Deputy Communications Director of the NDC. You're still watching today's big story. We've been trying to reach Franklin Odro, who is Deputy Director of CDD, to give us an independent view. And of course, we're looking at the way forward. Good evening to you. I'm told Franklin Odro is on the line. Good evening to you. Well, I think we're still having challenges with the network. We'll try and bring Franklin Odro on the line to join in this conversation. You heard the two sides who say the NDC still feels that President Mahama is doing his job, and the NPP feels the president is abusing his power by using state resources to campaign. We'll take a short break. We'll continue with the conversation afterwards. This is today's big story. The conversation is whether President Mahama is using state resources to campaign under the guise of accounting to the people. We heard from the two sides, the NDC and the NPP. On the phone line is Paul Abrampa, who is with the CDD and also works with CODEO. Good evening to you. Thanks for your time on today's big story.
Yeah, good evening, my sister.
This is not the first time, of course, that we're finding ourselves here. How do we draw the lines going forward, bearing in mind that the president is the same person who is a presidential candidate?
Well, thank you very much. Yes, you said it several times. I think for the last elections, a group of CSOs put themselves together and actually monitored and issue various reports monthly to indicate. But beyond the normal rhetoric, beyond people trying to come up with facts to point to it that, yes, certain groups of people actually use state power resources to the advantage of particular political parties. We haven't had a clear line as to how to deal with the problem. So obviously, we're going to continue to have it until we come up with specific measures to deal with it.
But there are people who feel this is some of the privileges attached to presidency. I mean, do you share that position?
Well, that's where we have problem as a coalition of domestic election observers, because when you look into governance, as soon as a president is elected, he becomes a president for the entire people in the country until after the expiring office 4-year tenure as we have in the country here. So long as you do on behalf of the people, you have at your disposal resources for the people of the country, not for your particular political party. And therefore, any of such resources that you use must be in the interest for the general people of the country and not a particular political party. So, yes, I've heard the arguments going on about the intent in the president's visit in form of accounting to the people. We need to find a way of dealing with state functions without bringing on board political paraphernalia and mobilizations. If we can clearly do that, then of course we can't say a president need not interact with its people. A president cannot go around to discuss with the people the project is bringing up, whether the people want it or they should change. I mean, there should be interaction. Where such platforms are manipulated to showcase the interests of a particular section or group of people, then it crosses the line as to the actual duties and the boundary as to what the president can do and what it goes into manipulation of the state resources for national interest.
One thing is clear, the opposition NPP is now demanding strict regulations to ensure a level playing field. I think that's what you're also talking about. But has there ever been one? As we stand here, that there's none like that I can think of. If in the states that haven't come across that. I quite remember this issue came up when GII and GACC issued their third report in 2012. Similar questions were asked, and people proposed that then, since it is the Electoral Commission that organizes elections, we can put it in addition to their monitoring indicators to check that. People were also saying, since it's a parliament that comes up with the regulation, we can also do that, and in conjunction with the court, they can also monitor and come up with measures to deal with it. But as it stands now, as to what particular sanctions, what particular forms, what particular actions that is taken against people, people always forge their mind or put their mind or focus only on the president. But my sister, when you do the bit of privacy monitoring, and you go on the ground, the MMDCs, the regional ministers, they are the people mostly abuse incumbency when it comes to elections. So if you're going to do it, then it needs a broadening of indicators and the scope as to how to monitor all public officials in relation to using state resources for the advantage of particular or sectional group of the people. Well, many thanks to you. Paula Brampa works with the CDD and doubles at the CODEO office. This is today's big story, and we're talking about accusations by the NPP that President Mahama is using state resources to campaign under the guise of accounting to the people. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for your time. Good evening.